Hey everybody, welcome to today's video. Today I'll be going over how I solo the Ghost of the Deep dungeon for the Guardian rank 11, getting the Solar Splunker done. I still have to do the Master Splunker, I just haven't felt like going in there on Master and getting it done, but I'm going to get it done either this week or next week before next season. That way I can carry over my 11. And just going to cover the build. So this is the best build, I think, in order to solo the dungeon, and it's going to give you some of the most survivability. It's the Unkillable Titan build, and a lot of people use this same build. If you watch other videos on how they solo it, same thing. It's going to be the Roaring Flames aspect, which allows you to stack up your damage 3 times when you get Final Blows of Solar abilities, which is going to be the hammer. Your throwing hammer is going to be your main source of damage output, and that's going to be something that you can spam. It gives you your cure, and then from there, once you stack it up, it'll also make sure that it starts knocking down orange bars, no problem. With that, we're running a healing grenade because for the most part you're using most of your throwing hammers to do the damage. You don't really need a grenade. This will save you if you start to get a little bit low, especially if, for example, you're running like a build that takes advantage of like Lordly Splendor and it kicks in, but you're still taking too much damage and you just need that little bump to top you off so that way Lordly can keep you alive. With that, you have Soul Invictus. Solar ability Final Blows are going to scorch targets and create sunspots as well, and those sunspots are going to regenerate your abilities, and then also they're going to help with restoration. So that's going to be where the fragments come in. You're going to be using your Ember of Singeing to get your class ability back quickly, and so you're scorching things with your hammer, and that's going to then feed back into your class ability, which is going to give you your Loreley more often. And then from there, you're looking at the Ember of Torches to stay radiant, so you do additional damage across the board. Ember of Solace is going to give your Radiant and your Restoration more time, so that way you have more time between hammer kills to kind of continue the buff. And then Ember of Imperium, same thing, Solar Weapon and Ability Final Blows extend that duration even more, so it kind of keeps your uptime on your Radiant and your Cure, your Restoration, so that way you have that constant regen of health, and then you're able to kind of get in close with enemies without worrying about dying. And then I ran throwing hammers for the boss. This build here, since I've cleared the dungeon last time I was on my Titan, this build is fighting the boss. So for the boss, I went with Arbalist, Callous Mini Tool, and Briar's Contempt. My Briar's Contempt has Reconstruction and Surrounded on it, and the reason why it's Surrounded is a ton of Thralls, so when you're doing DPS of the boss, just leave the Thralls up, and hopefully they don't all die in your Sunspot before you get off your damage on the boss. I was running Callous Mini Tool because I tried running with Akasha's Dejection, and I was running out of ammo at certain points. I guess some of the fixes that they've done with the double special made it to where it's not as viable. Even with rewind rounds and incandescent, I still was having trouble managing ammo, so I just went with good old trusty Callous Mini Tool because my Mini Tool has Grave Braver on it, and so anytime I get a hammer kill, it reloads, so it's like you're using your Mini Tool, you get your hammer, using your Mini Tool, you get your hammer, you never have to reload. And then incandescent, of course, Spread Scorch, which feeds back into your class ability, so that way I always have a shield up. I was always, protected by my Lordly Splendor, and there was very few times when I felt like I was going to die during the encounter, and then when I did, I just dropped my healing grenade, and that was that. And of course, Arbalist for the boss's shield. You one-shot the boss's shield, and you just go to town with your Briar's Contempt. And I think I 4-phased her. If not, maybe like a 5th phase for like a tiny little bit of health, but I'm pretty sure I 4-phased her. Now for the gear, for the boss, I'm doing the Lordly Splendor build, of course. I was running double Solar Siphon, that because I was running my Callous Mini Tool. I was running Heavy Ammo Finder so I can get more heavy ammo during the fight and help just a little bit extra damage. Now that they've fixed Impact Induction, I'm going back to using Impact Induction, and that'll help always make sure that I have my healing grenade up. Heavy Handed, of course, was giving orbs for doing my hammer kills, and then I had Solar Loader just in case I had to reload my heavy weapon, and for whatever reason, if I had to reload my Callous Mini Tool. I was running arc damage resistance because I was trying to avoid the boss's attacks and also the little moss so that the moss didn't just straight murder me. And I was running concussive dampener because there's a lot of area of effect damage as well that bleeds through your shield, especially when you're trying to pick up the when you're trying to pick up the deep sight. The deep sight buff that allows you to see the symbols so that you can run around and see where you're actually going as far as for the which hand and feet and which foot, basically which part of Crota you're going to be taking the Vorlog to kill. and then I was running triple weapons solar surge, so that way when I had my armor charges up I was getting the additional damage. And then I was running double time dilation so that I can keep as much of my armor charges as possible, and that did pretty well. Like I said, I think I four-faced her, which is pretty good for solo. And it was like a long fight, but it wasn't necessarily like super stressful. The only times that you get really stressed out is when the boss is like right on top of you and there's a bunch of ads attacking you all at the same time, and you're kind of just trying to stay in your sunspot and you're trying to get behind a shield. And so what I would always do is I would always pop my barrier and then pick up the deep sight and then move on from there. And I'll go over that once I kind of go over a little bit in the commentary on each section. But this is the build that I was using for the boss. And then in the next section I'm going to go over the build that I was actually using for the first encounter, and then we'll switch to the second encounter, and then I'll show you again in the third encounter kind of what my strategies were now that you already have the build for this. And after I've kind of gone over all of my commentary, then I'm going to splice it all together at the end of the video. That way you can see the whole run all the way through, and you can see each section and how I handled each section, especially even the middle sections and what weapons I used. And so that's pretty much it for the build and the setup, and I'll see you guys in the next section where we talk about the first encounter. Alright, so this is going to be the build for the first section. So the first section has a lot of ads and it's enemy dense. I was running the Syntheseps. That way you can actually get the additional damage from being surrounded by enemies. And with the Syntheseps, I was running the heavy handed and melee kickstart mods with focusing strike. And of course, since I'm using the hammer a lot and there's a ton of ads, that's going to be helping me keep my class ability energy up. So that way if I need to pop my shield, I can in a pinch. And then from here I was running double heavy ammo finders since I was running a rocket launcher. The weapons I was using was Apex Predator with reconstruction, bait and switch. I was running Risk Runner because there's a lot of arc damage going out, and then I was running Partner Dust so that way I could blind things. Just an auto-loading blinding grenade, any auto-loading blinding grenade will work, just in case I needed a little bit of space, or when I was running in to do the dunk of the symbol, you could just blind stuff, and that makes it to where you're not getting attacked while you're kind of vulnerable during the dunk. For the helmet, again, I was running the double heavy, and then for the chest, I was running double arc resistance with a lot of arc damage, and then a void resist because there's a bunch of void from all the acolytes, and then the ogre also has the void beam, so that'll help survivability a little bit. That'll help you close the distance on the ogre and get your melee kill. For the boots, I was running stacks on stacks, so that way I always had armor charges to feed the melee. And then from there, I was running recuperation to get health. If I picked up an orb, that'll keep your health up. And then better already gives you a health chunk right away, so that'll keep you from dying. So this is just survivability. That's basically all it is in the first phase, is just going from place to place and then surviving and making sure you're good. For the mark, I'm using Reaper, so that way when I pop my class ability, I'll get that Orb of Power next kill. So I'm always generating Orbs of Power either from the melees, or if I'm popping something, then I have that too on demand if I need a little bit of health. I'm running Proximity Ward just so that way if I need to finish something, I can actually finish it and then save myself because I get that strong shield, and by that time the restoration that you have taken on you will have filled up your health. And then just double bomber in case I have to use my healing grenade to stay alive for whatever reason. You just pop your shield and it gives you a nice little kickstart to get you going on your next healing grenade. And so that's the build for the first one. Now I'm going to go into the commentary section and talk about exactly what I'm doing commentary wise as far as how I'm running the encounter in case you're new to the dungeon and how I handle it solo. So starting out, you land and you're going to speed up to the main section. You can do it on your speeder and just get off a little early so that it won't kill you by exploding. I'm popping the banner here and getting all of my abilities and my ammo up. I start out just by blinding these guys just to make them easy so that I can pick them off with the hammer and start my hammer. You're going to try to get your 3 kills, and then from there you have your hammer going, and then your hammer just mows through everything. Even the orange bars will sometimes go down in one hit when you've got a max stack of hammers and you're properly surrounded and you got bionic enhancements going, for example. And so the ogre will spawn either middle, left, right. In that case it was middle. I was running a rocket launcher, as you can see there. It does a nice job taking out the ogre very quickly, so that way he doesn't really get a chance to beam you down. And then what you'll see is on the ground there was the glowing trail that told me to go to the left. And so my job now is to go to the left and try to find a symbol floating in the air. As you can see there, that's what looks like to me the scorpion symbol. That's what I call it. And then as soon as you get over there, you're going to get ads spawning and wizards spawning. And so from there, you just kill the 2 Soul Firebinder wizards, and then it's going to give you a trail and send you off to another spot. Just keep an eye on the moths, because sometimes if you're low and a moth catches you, it can kill you, even in the Unkillable Titan build. And so from here, I'm going to follow the green trail across. And you see there's the next symbol. And again, my main thing that I'm doing is I'm just getting out the hammer early when I get into the group so that I can get my sunspot, and I can also keep my hammer up at ×3. And then from there, you can, once you get your a little bit of arc damage in, you can turn around and mow things down with your Risk Runner, and it's got that buff where it'll consistently reload itself and does the additional damage and chains to the other enemies around. And so now that I've killed that, I'm trying to locate the trail on the ground. And the trail on the ground is going to take me all the way to the edge. And sometimes it'll be in these rooms on the sides of the encounters. And sometimes it's hard to see because not only will it be in this room, but off to the left there by the beach, there's also a spawn point. So just kind of take your time, look around. There's no time limit on this encounter until you actually pick up the buff. So just don't rush, don't get yourself confused if you're not used to the layout. Just take your time, follow the trail, and if it needs to go all the way through to the wall and into something, then that's exactly where it's at. So don't think that the trail is leading off to nowhere. It's just something that's hidden. It's a room that's off to the side that you can't really see. Also, don't forget, these are Lucent Hive, so you're going to want to finish every single Lucent Hive that you kill. You don't just want to run off now that you know your symbol. And then once you do that finish, you see here I now have a timer Vestige of Light. This is where the actual time crunch happens. What's happening is that Vestige of Light is counting down, and it's forcing me to go back to the main encounter. And on the way back, I'm having to kill these moths. Now, you can run past these moths, but they do follow you for quite a bit. And so, for example, they catch up to you, and the wizard's attacking you and you're half health. They can't kill you. And so I'm trying to get a good rocket in on this wizard because it's solar, and then I'm trying to, kind of blind it, keep it in place. And once you kill the wizard with your Vestige of Light, you're going to end up getting the deep sight, and then you're going to see which symbol you have that you've been following. As you see, I got the scorpion. So you got your 3 scorpion symbols that you collected. You know it's scorpion when you get back. That's going to be the symbol that you dunk once you do that and your buff goes away. If you don't do that successfully, if you pick the wrong one, or if you don't do it in time, you will die and have to start over again. And so from here, it's just a matter of clearing. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clear everything out. I'm going to look for the new ogre. Boom, there's the new ogre. And then it's rinse and repeat. And you do this again and again. I think it's like 4 times that you have to do this same pattern. And once you've done that, it'll take you to the next step. You'll get the chest pop. And then from there, you'll end up going into the next section, which I'll go into now. Now, once you clear the first encounter, just follow your path until you get to the drilling platform. And you're just going to want to be careful because it's got the little spinning propellers that can knock you off your course. And in this particular room, for some reason, like your guardian doesn't really want to mount on these little side railing edges that are at the bottom. So try to line yourself up with the platform underneath. So that way when you do fall down, if you do end up getting pushed out a little bit, you land on the platform and you don't land on the railing and then slip off and end your flawless run here. And so once you follow the path and jump down, you're going to just kind of go through a little tunnel in the room, which is going to then take you to a drop down. And the tunnel's off to your right once you first get through the little fencing area. And you're going to follow a couple of like tight corridors until you get to a Hallow Fathom restricted zone. From here, it's just killing everything. There's nothing special. You just, you kill the orange bars, you kill the knight, you kill a bunch of thrall, and then you kill the next knight. And eventually what happens is the platform opens up and allows you to drop down. And once you drop down, it's just going to be the same kind of setup with a bunch of little spinny things that try to knock you off your course. And just try to avoid getting hit twice. Like you can live through one fall damage, but if you hit another fall damage shortly after that and you get like bounce, they take that 1 or 2 damage to finish you off, you could end your run. Getting into the water, it's important to kind of plot your path. You want to try to make sure that you're always close to an air bubble if you're trying to go for the solo flawless, and you don't want to keep doing this over and over again. It sucks because if you do die here, you have to go all the way back up and start the fight again at the drilling platform. So just be real careful. From here, once you get to the first big drop down where there's like a giant kind of a bunker head, like a seal, like a door that's there, you can jump off to the side, and you can jump even further off to the side. Although I don't recommend it because if you try to take the shortcut and you end up going too far out to the side, you'll end up in like a kill zone, and it just won't let you back into the safe zone in time, and you'll end up dying from that kill zone, or you'll end up dying because you're too far in the abyss and it just kind of kills you as like a death barrier. So when you do jump off to the sides and you do take those shortcuts off to the sides, make sure you're cutting back into the middle, especially when there's sections where you can jump up and you can actually get air in the center, because again, you won't have enough time to land if you go through the sides and you try to take a shortcut and you end up in like a turn back zone, for example. So once you've cleared all the main areas, you're going to end up in like a kind of a coral area where you're underneath the sea and you can see some of the debris from the fallen ship that's in the distance. Same thing, you're going to just make sure you're tracking your air bubbles. Once you're through to the cliff, on the left side is where there's some coral sticking out that you can use to traverse this. And once you do that, you'll end up in an area where there's a kind of a separation, like in deep dive, where you go through the wall of water and then you have a air pocket to breathe in. Those are really easy. You just clear the ads, take your time, get all the way through, and then it's going to take you to another section where you're also underwater with all the coral around you. And once you're there, there's going to be a part where you have to be kind of careful, and actually two parts. When you're through the air pocket, there's a bunch of wizards, and if I kept the same build, I was still running the Risk Runner with the blinding grenade and the rocket launcher. And so if you want, you can switch off to like a scout or something like that. That way you can take out the wizards a little easier. I was just kind of being lazy and shooting the wizards with my Risk Runner, and then every now and then I may try to pop them with a grenade if I can't remember if I did or not. But that's good practice to blind them so they don't sit there shooting at you. And then just make sure you're taking your time and you're jumping a little bit earlier when you do the jump between these kind of fallen platforms that allow you to cross. And once you're into the next area, another area that's a little bit dangerous is you get to the shelf and you're going to have to do kind of a jump, and there's a platform in the middle that you land on. Well, that first jump is easy, but the second jump is kind of tight. So when you do land on that middle platform, just back up a little bit and get a good running start and jump slightly before the edge, so that you don't also just like sink, because you're going to need all the height you can to get across. You kind of always barely make it just with like a few feet, and then there's a bubble right in front of you. That bubble can be bait if you don't have the right jump height, so I just always can run past it, and then I just get into the non-pressurized area, into the open air, and you don't have to worry about the bubble, because once you hit the open air, boom, you get your air back, and then you're pushing forward into the next area. Next area is just a bunch of platforms with shriekers and with ads. And so what I switched to is I switched to Graviton Lance so that I could pick at the ads from a distance. And Graviton Lance has got that buff for PvE, and it's very strong, so it really does do a good job cleaning up a lot of the orange bar ads that are down here. They're going to throw grenades and stuff at you, throw you off while you're climbing. And then for the Shrieker, I just hit them with the rockets that I had, and they died pretty quickly from that. In the final section, though, there's a area where it's like a nice, large, open cathedral-looking area. That one I did switch off. I switched off to a linear, and that way I could pick at the streakers from a little farther away. I didn't have to get quite so close, and I had a little bit more ammo when I did get ammo pickup in order to take care of them. And of course, you can always still graviton them down, but keep an eye on the ads that spawn on the two sides. There's going to be ads on both side pillars, and then there's going to be the wizards that spawn. Some of them will spawn behind you, so just keep that in mind. Keep your shield ready. That way you can protect yourself if you get into a situation where you're surrounded. And then, of course, for the ogre, the final ogre, you just want to get in there and pop your super, hit him with your special, whatever you got to do to make sure that ogre doesn't kill you, because it's kind of a shame if you do all this work and you get all the way to the end and then you get killed by the ogre at the final section. Going to be and this is by the way after Ecthar too, that I'm referencing. And so just always try to think ahead, kind of know your path, plot your path, and make sure that you're not getting too comfortable, because any little thing like not mantling when you're jumping from side to side and stuff like that, like those two areas, those are going to be where you're going to have like easy deaths that could be avoided, and it's going to piss you off if you have to start all over again, if that's your goal, to do the solo flawless. You don't have to solo flawless though for the journey section for your guardian ranks, and so I just didn't care either way. And if I did die, I wasn't going to start over. But that's pretty much how I took it, and it's just kind of a no pressure way to look at it. You're just trying to get it done instead of trying to stress to actually get flawless, because again, you don't need to get flawless for the Guardian rank, and that's what I'm doing this for, is to get my Guardian rank completed for the season. And so now I'm going to go into the Ecthar fight and go and talk about what I did for him, the build that I used, and kind of the strategy that I used for the Ecthar fight. Alright, here's a quick build review before we go into the Ecthar fight. I was running double shotgun just because I was already running the 1-2 punch shotgun, so I figured I might as well just run another double shotgun and just have some extra shotgun ammo in case I run out of the tractor cannon. I need to do some additional damage to him. But mostly you're going to be doing your damage with your baby hammer. You're going to try to stack that up, and you're going to try to make sure that your roaring flames is all the way up and you got your radiant going. And so what you're going to end up doing is you'll see that I get to the point where I'm fighting Ecthar, and then I'll end up killing an ad to keep my roaring flames going and everything times 3, and then I'm in the sunspot and I'm there attacking him. A lot of the times I'll pop my super even, and I'll bring down his shield with the super, and so that'll then leave me a sunspot, so then I can keep attacking him while I'm getting my restoration there going. And obviously every time I'm hitting him with the hammer, it's curing me. I turn and get a quick kill, and that's kind of the setup. And so because of that, I'm using the tractor cannon to get an additional damage buff on him, so I won't have to do quite so many rotations of his DPS phase. And so the idea is, this is just for killing the ads, because 1-2 punches are going to work for the boss damage. And then you get to the boss, you pop him with the tractor cannon, you kill the knight that spawns, you get the damage pool that allows you to pop his shield, so pop your super in there, pop his shield, and then get in there, and you're going to hit him with a tractor cannon, throw like 4, 5, 6 hammers, hit him again with the tractor cannon, and just keep doing that rotation, and every now and then turn and make sure that you're getting an ad kill to keep up your stacks, and that'll help you burn him down in about 4 or 5 rotations. For the armor itself, I did make some changes. I still have the double heavy ammo finder. I still have the same thing on the synthesis from the first encounter, but I changed out an arc resist for a void resist, because there's more void damage going on with all the acolytes and the ogres in this one, and there's only a couple of wizards, and by then your baby hammers are so strong you like 2 or 3 shot the wizards. And so that's kind of the reason why I was doing double void. I switched over to Void Weapon Surge in order to get a little bit more damage on the boss with the shot. It's not going to be a big deal for your DPS, but it helps just a little bit. Every little bit helps. And then I'm running a Void Scavenger mod, so when I do pick up heavies, I get more for the Tractor Cannon, because that's going to be your main weapon that you're using when it comes to boss time. And then on the Deep Explorer mark, I was running Time Dilation for additional armor charges, Proximity Ward still for that emergency heal or emergency situation where I just finish an ad nearby and I'm able to get an overshield, and that'll give me time to get my health back up. And then Reaper for every time I use my ability, I can just force having a armor charge, for example, around the time that the boss fight's getting ready to start. So that's something that you can also take advantage of too. And that's pretty much the build, so I'm now going to go into the fight. And so the Ecthar fight is pretty straightforward, because you're gonna do most of your damage with your hammer on the boss and on enemies. So when you get in there, you're just gonna pop the acolytes that are sitting there, start the encounter, and then I go around in like a circle, kind of starting from the left or the right, and I kill the knights that are in front of me. Once you kill the 3 knights, left, middle, and right, you're gonna get the ogre that spawns. You're gonna just burn down the ogre. Usually I'll hit him with a shotgun shot and a hammer, and that'll do it for him. And then once that happens, then you can make your way around either to the outside to try to kill stuff, get ammo on the ground, or you go straight to the middle and pick up your deep sight. Once you get the deep sight, you're going to be seeing your symbols popping on the right and the left braziers that are hanging from the wall. And from here, there's a map you can actually get that shows you the corresponding symbol where it's at underneath. So you can always have that map pulled up if you have a second screen, or pull it up on your phone if you're playing on console. So you kind of know where you want to dip down underneath. You want to try to reduce the amount of time that you're down there with Ecthar, because he will bounce you, and when he does bounce you, there's this additional kind of distance that he'll put between you, but also he'll knock off your oxygen. So like say you have like a bar of oxygen and he hits you, it'll knock off an entire bar, and then you're there and you need to hit a bubble right away, or you're going to end up cracking and dying. So that's the downside of getting hit by Ecthar. It is nice when you're about to leave and Ecthar hits you and pushes you right towards the chute that takes you out of the water, but otherwise it's a little bit annoying, because you always got to be in the air looking for where your next bubble's at, since you're very likely going to be out of air and your suit's about to crack. And so you come back up to the top, you're going to hunt down the 3 wizards. Usually there's 2 in the front and and one hanging out kind of in the middle. You can use your super on them if you want to, if you think you're going to get it back by the time it's Ecthar damage time, but I found that it's best to save your super for Ecthar, so that way whenever you do hit his shield with it, it burns it down pretty quickly because he tends not to move around too much there. And so once you have your wizards killed, what's going to happen is you're going to get the same buff that you were getting in the first section, and each time you have that buff, that Vestige of Light buff, you can go over to one of the 3 corresponding statues that are there in the room, and each one will allow you to deposit, once you kill each of the wizards, 1 time each. And again, don't forget that these wizards are Lucent Hive, and so the Lucent Hive wizards, you have to actually finish those, and if you don't, they'll come back, and it's not a problem because they come back. You just have to go over there and pop them again real fast, so that way you do get the Vestige of Light buff and you can get the dunk. Now once you do get those 3 done, then you're going to head over, once you get that very 3rd deposit, you're going to want to head straight to Ecthar, and you're going to want to hop over his head as he spawns in, and then as you hop over his head, you hit him with a tractor cannon to start the debuff early, and then go kill his knight. That knight will then drop the pool, which is going to allow you to do DPS to him, and from the pool you just pop your super, and then you just burn through Ecthtar's shield, get some damage on him, and then start working your combo where you hit him with your tractor cannon, hit him with 5 or 6 shots from your baby hammer, and again, try to keep your baby hammer up by killing ads, and then from there, once you end up hitting him with the tractor cannon, keep going with your baby hammers. You'll be doing like hundreds of thousands of damage with your baby hammers, and again, try to keep that up, try to keep surrounded, and once you're done, he'll turn like immune, not immortal, but immune, and he'll end up disappearing, and so he'll come back in his boomer form. That boomer form is where he just walks around just kind of shooting you with his arc boomer, so just go back up to the top to get away from that way you don't have to worry about his additional damage. He won't shoot you when you're all the way at the top, and start clearing the knights out in that moon-shaped or arc shape that I was telling you about, right to left or left to right. Come back, kill the ogre, and then it's rinse and repeat from there. My best time that I did damage to him, I was able to get, like I said, around a quarter of his health, and that's because I was doing a good job of keeping up my stacks of Roaring Flames and keeping with a bunch of ads around me so that I was getting the surrounded benefit from the Syntheseps. And so you can see as you get through each phase and you get better and better at it, he could be a 3 phase if you do it really nice, but really it's usually a 4 phase, so just keep it up. Keep your wits about you. Don't let him crack your armor when you're underneath. He also doesn't handle corners very well, so if you're down there and you're around some coral, just hug the coral in a circle and he'll end up kind of getting lost on you, and then you can take off and you can run away from him and move on to the next section. And of course, once you kill him, just like everything else, a new path is going to open up. That path is going to be underneath in the water. It's going to be like a blocked off area that you couldn't get through before. You just jump down there, you'll see the blocked off area, and that'll take you up into the next airspace where I was discussing the shriekers that were in the distance, and that's where I switched to the linear fusion from earlier, and when I was going over kind of the in-between areas. And so now we're going to go actually back over to the boss, and the boss build's already been discussed, so I'm just going to go right into the mechanics so that we can talk about how I beat the boss. So the boss encounter begins when you crush the ghost. You make sure that everything's in order and your build is good before you do crush the ghost. You can get that flag. One important thing to do whenever you first fight the boss and she spawns her bunch of moths, you're going to want to make sure you just take your primary out and shoot an arcing pattern so that you can pop them as they spawn, trying to keep them before they're moving. And if you need to shoot them a little bit as they're moving towards you, it's fine, but at least try to knock out at least 4 of them, because it takes about 3 at the same time to insta-kill you for her. Sometimes 2 if you're a little bit low, but I always try to take out at least 4 before I start letting a few get away. And so the pattern that you want to try to remember is that you're going to go up and you're going to clear all the knights along the outside. The 3 knights, they're not required for the mechanic, but I always do so that way they're not hitting me with boomers and I can focus on what I'm doing. So I kill the 3 knights, the orange bar knights, and then I come back down and I clear all the little ads as I'm going toward the deep side. I'm going to put my shield up to get a restoration going and protect me from the boss's attack, pick up the deep sight, and then take a look at the pattern to see where it was. In this case, I started off on the right arm if you're looking at Crota, his left arm though, if, depending on how you're doing your callouts. So for me, I call it the right arm because I'm doing it as looking at Crota, and then from there I move to the next section. And so it's always going to be the middle and then one of the appendages. So the middle is usually always, if I remember correctly, always going to be part of the pattern, part of the triangle. And again, your goal is to build that triangle. And so the way you do that is you stand over the appendage, the area will glow, it'll start turning green below your feet. You're going to lure Vorlog into that glow, and then you're going to kill Vorlog as you're standing in it. He doesn't have to be in the glow. He can be on the outside of it as long as you're in the glow firmly when you kill him. It'll give you the little ring to find, and that ring will usually come from the area that you just were at. So you'll see there that I did the right arm first, and then the middle section was having me look back to the right arm to do the middle section. And so that's going to be your goal, is to line up the Savathun symbol with the little ring. You don't have to shoot it. I initially thought you had to shoot it in my first video. You can just line it up, but for some reason I still have that habit of shooting it and like lining up your reticle to shoot it. It helps break it because sometimes you feel like you're lying but you're not. You bring your reticle up and then boom, it goes away. And so once you do that, then your next goal is going to be to have all three of those connected. You've got your three symbols from doing that same pattern, picking up the deep sight, finding out where you're at, killing Vorlog 3 times. Every time you kill Vorlog 2, look at the wizard, because she has a chance to spawn those moths, and so you want to make sure that you're doing the same thing that you did in the first time. Every time she spawns those moths, and if she spawns Vorlog, you're going to want to shoot her in an arc, shoot the moths in an arc around her, try to kill as many as you can before they get out and start seeking you. And so now that you've got all three connected, your next step is going to be to look at the Lucent Hive doors. Now the three sections, there's going to be 2 doors on the right that lead to a Hive Wizard. There's going to be 2 doors in the middle that's underneath Crota's chest, so you'll see them kind of like a little cave on each side. That's going to take you to an Acolyte. And then you've got the 2 doors on the left, and that's going to take you to a Hive Knight, and that is the most dangerous one. So I kind of like to do that one first, just so that I'm ready. And the goal is that you're going to run into the Hive Knight's area, you're going to kill everything, and if he pops his super, and you're trying to go flawless, for example, or just trying to survive, you're going to hop back in the water and wait for that super to end, because that shield toss that he has, it bounces so many times, it's super unpredictable, and sometimes it even hits you when it's not even next to you, like the shield will go past you, but then you still take the damage from the hit. And he also has suppressor grenades that can one-shot you, so if he pops his super, and he's not about 1 or 2 shots to the point where you can kill him before he gets to the ground, you're going to want to just take off. Now before you kill his ghost though, once you've killed him and everything is safe, and you can focus, check the symbol first, then kill the ghost. You have plenty of time after you kill him in order to check the symbol, and in this case the symbol for me when I got in there was the circle symbol. And so what I did is I looked at the symbol and then I killed the ghost. And so again, that's going to be the biggest thing for you, because if you forget the symbol, you have a 33% chance of guessing yes, but then you're going to start your run all over again, and you're going to lose your flawless just because you didn't pay attention to the symbol. And so what I end up doing is I end up looking at the symbol, and then I just repeat it to myself all the way until I get out to the middle, and then I can actually deposit it. And you also have time too, by the way, so you get that same vestige. In this case, it's a vestige of a knight if you do the knight first. And you get out there and you're going to go into the middle. You're going to make sure she doesn't have any butterflies coming at you. You're going to kill ads all the way through to the deep sight, drop your shield to protect yourself, and then pick up the deep sight. With the deep sight, it'll start showing you the little small orbs that are going to be between the corresponding symbols in the triangle that you created. Go over to the corresponding symbol when you just came from, and then interact with that black orb, and that's going to give you a message that you've done it correctly, and then you move on to the next Lucent Hive. You're going to do that all 3 times again in the same exact places, and once you've gotten all 3 symbols done, then it's boss DPS time, and it'll drop you actually a DPS circle underneath the 3 zones, and you can pick any of the 3. You can DPS from the middle if you're comfortable with that. Sometimes I was DPSing from the top because things have to come up to me, so it's a little easier to control where they come from, and you can also hide a little bit better from some of the things up there. And so that's where I chose to do the DPS a lot of the time, or in the middle. I would just pop my shield and I would just peek shoot her if she was in a good spot from the middle, just peek shooting the left side of my shield over and over again as I'm getting the additional damage on her from being surrounded and being in that sunspot. I'm still killing stuff with my hammer so that I have a sunspot below me and also getting radiant, and that's going to stack up all of the damage that you can do to her and knock her down into, she's about, like I said, like a 4. She's about 4 passes, so 4 phase. And so once you've done that, the enemies are going to spawn again. You're going to do that same pattern. You're going to go and take out the knights first. You're going to take out the little stuff. You're going to watch when Vorlog spawns for her butterflies. Take out the butterflies. Always keep an eye on the butterflies. And you're going to run that again. So you're going to kill the... For me, I was always killing the knight, the acolyte, and the wizard. Sometimes I'll go knight, wizard, acolyte. But I usually kind of would go in order depending on where my health was. So knight, acolyte, wizard. And then I would do my DPS. And I would keep doing that over and over again and try to get just better at that kind of rotation so that I'm faster on the rotation. I spend less time doing it, and I also get more DPS in because I know exactly the timing, like of when she's about to go, and I can switch weapons if I need to, hit her with some arbalist shots if I run out of my heavy, although that wasn't really too bad. I usually had most of my heavy for most of the DPS phases. So I don't know if it's a fix or something, but like I felt like I was more heavy starved the first day that I was in here on day 1. But anyways, that's pretty much the whole mechanics. Again, once you've executed that 4 times, 5 times, and it's a real slog. Again, and the biggest key to me, I think, is to stay safe. Make sure that you have your shields up. If you get overwhelmed, just hop into the water, and you'll see that I did that plenty of times where I'll just hop into the water and like stare at them, shoot the water wall, so that I get my health back. And then when I jump out there, I kill something and then do it again until I'm pretty much clear, because I just did not want to start this fight over again. It's such a long fight, and so that's the main goal, is to try to make sure you don't have to start the fight over again. Try to make sure you don't forget any Lucent Hive, because you have to go and kill their ghosts so you can kill them, see the symbol, and bounce. You have to come all the way back to get it, and you only have a few seconds to get back. That would be a sucky way to lose your flawless. But all you have to do is just keep organized, keep your head about you, and this boss will fall over eventually. You know, even if you're doing terrible DPS, this boss will fall over eventually, as long as you can keep making those boss rotations. You get your loot, and then from there you hop into your journey, and then you can claim the solo splunker. And so that's pretty much it for the video. What I'm going to do now is, after this, I'm going to splice through my entire run so you can see the encounter, the middle part, encounter, then the other middle part, and then from there the boss, and how I handled each of the fights, just in case you're a visual learner and you need to actually like see the whole fight and how it's done and how people handle transitioning from phase to phase. So I'm going to have that for you guys. But other than that, if you have any additional questions on builds, or if you have any other just concerns about things as far as like how did I do something in the video that you saw that you're not quite sure on how I completed something like that or did something like that, just let me know in the comments and I'll reach out to you when I have time. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Guardian, there's massive energy readings surging from below the arcology. All communication channels are affected. The Lucent Hive are forcing their way through from the Ascendant Plane. There's something else going on. The formations I'm seeing are indicative of some kind of mass ritual to... Guardian, can you hear me?
The Necromancer. This boss has a ton of health, there are a number of different challenges, and many people on day one were thinking that she was obscenely hard. But the truth is if you know what's going on and how to do it, she is not that hard to kill. Let's talk about the builds and the gear, of course, getting everything started. For this, I would recommend using a trace rifle of some sort. You can get the retraced
picking you up again. The signal's clearing and I'm receiving your ghost's feed of... Is that... Oryx?